All right, well, thank you everyone for joining us. And the title of our presentation today is Co-Designing a Digital Engagement Toolkit. We wanted to emphasize co, as LeoLin and I have really enjoyed our time around being able to do this with everyone. So I am going to start with some introductions. Bear with me here. All right, we are both coming from code.org. LeoLin, take it away.
Yeah, so Dr. Thomas and I were both members of the education team here at code.org, and we lead the Engaging Black Students and Teachers initiative to CS initiative within the organization. So if you don't know, code.org is a nonprofit dedicated to expanding access to computer science in schools and increasing participation by young women and students from underrepresented groups. Our vision is that every student in every school has an opportunity to learn computer science as a part of their core K-12 education. So before we go any further, I'd actually like to introduce you to my esteemed co-presenter, Dr. Sabine Thomas. Next slide, Sabine.
Thank you.
So as an outreach manager, Dr. Thomas blends her skills in user experience, community engagement, and socio-emotional learning to support parent engagement and teacher recruitment around computer science education in the Northwest region. She is a national facilitator for the Race After Technology Book Club, and she is a graduate of the Mount Holyoke College and Bastyr University.
And with that, I'd like to now introduce my esteemed co-presenter and colleague, LeoLin Bowen, who holds a Bachelor's of Science in Psychology. LeoLin leads an outreach and strategic partnership in computer science K-12 education within 7 states in the South. And she's passionate about the importance of STEAM subjects in closing the wage gaps in historically underrepresented groups in CS. So with this introduction, we wanted to be able to set the foundation around UX research and design. Why we actually chose to start with this is really having the understanding of the co-designing and the co-creation of a digital toolkit, and going back at the foundation of ensuring that the user experience, our stakeholders, our teachers, our superintendent who are looking into CS, have really this interaction with our services, in this particular case, our digital toolkit. And we wanted to make sure that it is important to meet the exact need of you, our stakeholders, with simplicity, certainly elegance that produces a joy to access and a joy to use.
So there are 2 subsets of user experience, which are research and design. So I'm going to take just a couple of minutes to dive a little bit deeper into their definition and their application. So UX research is the systemic study of intended users and their needs to add realistic context and insights to the design process. UX researchers adopt a variety of methods to uncover problems and design opportunities. And then user experience design is the process, design teams use to create products and provide meaningful, relevant experience for users. So this involves the design of the entire process, acquiring and integrating the product, including aspects of branding, design, usability, and function.
All right, we wanted to take it one step further. LeoLin has shared with you definitions of user experience design, as well as user experience research. There are 2 luminaries really that I wanted to really lift attention to here as we dive into co-designing this digital toolkit. And the first one is Dr. Ruha Benjamin, who is the author of Race After Technology, as well as the author of Building for Everyone, Annie Jean-Baptiste. Both are incredible luminaries, the Black women who are designing around the cultural relevance of our community, but also highlighting the importance of doing no harm or not doing any further harm while we are designing. Annie Jean-Baptiste highlights the fact that who may be left out with current technology, who must be part of all the processes, as well as a seat at the table still means that underrepresented groups have to be granted the permission to have the power to be around the table. And so with setting this foundation for our talk today, we wanted to highlight the importance of us being able to design a tool that is important to our community. With that, I wanted to also call your attention to a concept that is fast evolving around design justice, really kind of led by the title of this book, Design Justice, by Dr. Sasha Costanza-Schock, who's out of MIT. And we also wanted to give a nod to State of Black Design, which started in September of 2020, and most recently had a 2-day event where designers, Black designers more specifically, across the country and some across the Atlantic Ocean, really leading us to the diaspora to really start thinking a little bit about diversity. And right now it is supported, reflected in design-related field. And the goal of this particular event was to explore the intersection of identity and practice, specifically within the design field, which has truly failed to attract African-American students, and how hegemony works space impacting professionals of color and potential improvement methods. So check it out. But these are the two spaces that really have set the foundation around designing. All right. Before we get to the digital toolkit, we promise we'll get there. We wanted to start with our why. And I wanted to bring some attention around some pretty staggering numbers when we're thinking about Black students and Black teachers. So here are a couple of facts. We know that about 88% of Black students say they are interested in CS. Certainly is interested in learning CS in the future or currently interested in CS. We know that 78% of Black parents and guardians agree that learning computer science is very important or important. So there is a definite interest. However, when we're looking at data on participation and persistence, what we are noticing here is that 15% of Black and African-American students make up the student demographic. However, a staggering number of about 5.67% of these students are the ones taking AP computer science exam. I want to pause here and actually unfold very quickly the importance of thinking about AP Computer Science, Advanced Placement Computer Science exam, which is an exam given either during a junior year or a senior year in high school. AP of course, highlights advanced placement, so either some level of recommendation or self-placement into an advanced placement. And the exam allows students to access up to 3 credits of college classes once they graduate and are accepted into a college. So it's an incredibly defining opportunity for students. It really lays out the foundation for success in computer science, as well as access to college credits. So a great way for us to be able to measure impact. So back to our data here, 15% of our students, our Black students, represent the student demographic with about 5.60% taking the AP exam. Our Latinx brothers and sisters make up 25% of the student population and 15% of students who are taking exam. Similarly here, incredibly low representation. Our Native American counterparts as well, 1% of the student population with 0.46 taking it, the AP exam. Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders, again, 0.38, 0.14. And when we compare to two community groups, right now, who are really moving through AP Computer Science, you can see the incredible disparities. Our Asian community here represents 5.23% of the students' demographic, with 26% of the student population taking the AP exam. And same thing with the white community, 47.48% represent the student demographics, with 42% taking the AP exam. So definite disparity. And lastly, when we're thinking about access, which means the class may be offered in a specific school or school district, but when a class is being offered, only 67% of all Black students nationally attend a high school that offers a foundational CS course. So the class is offered, it's the access that is pretty staggering. So we really set out a foundation around how could we change these numbers, how could we really encourage students our Black students and our Black teachers to attain numbers like possibly the Asian community, where 5.23% of the students demographic make up the student population, and 26.04 are taking the AP exam. LeoLin is going to take us through a couple of ways in which we attempted to start addressing this disparity.
Thanks, Sabine. So the first step we did is that we listened to the experts. So meaning we invited, engaged, and listened to students, teachers, administrators across 2 panels in a series of panels that Sabine and I are hosting, that we started hosting at the beginning of this year. And some themes rose to the top in terms of why is there this disparity in computer science for our Black students and teachers. So some of those themes came up was, number one, the lack of culturally relevant curriculum. We need the curriculum that Black folks can relate to, in essence, for lack of better words, that Black folks can relate to and understand and communicate to us in our culture, in our language and things like that. We need to create an environment an environment in computer science that is suitable for Black students and teachers to thrive. This is more than just adding some Black faces from from memes or stock photos into our books. This is making sure that our environments are set up so that students and teachers not only start taking the classes or start teaching, but feel included in those classes as they move through their computer science worlds, however far that takes them. Community-based engagement and support is not robust. So this once again goes into not only Black folks seeing themselves in these classes, but having a sense of community needed to continue on. And then lastly, there's not a full understanding of the implication of technology as well. So you're watching code bias today or throughout this session. That's a really great resource to kind of understand how technology can have an impact on Black folks. We also asked for feedback after these panels from attendees. And we received a lot of really great feedback that is not only helping us with this resource that you will be seeing in a couple of minutes, but also is going to help us guide the future of our initiative. So attendees answered a range of questions, and they said some of the things they wanted were more concrete ways to engage Black students and teachers. And they also were honest in saying that, folks they generally don't have the capacity, or they don't fully understand all of the factors that impact Black communities and their access to computer science. So these are some of the things that we are going to continue to keep in our mind as we move forward with this initiative.
Thank you, LeoLin. And so we've kind of taken you this pathway of finding out who we are, giving you the foundation around UX research and design. LeoLin did talk about the fact that you're going to be, if not already watched, Coded Bias. I know I will chime in. And really highlighting luminaries like Ruha Benjamin, who highlights the importance of designing with thinking about our communities in mind, designing with thinking through the lenses of ethics, and really lessening the harm that we are doing while we are designing. And so, having set this foundation, we wanted to take a step back here and talk about why now we wanted to create a digital toolkit. And really, we ran out a bit of room here, but it really will continue to be a digital community engagement toolkit. We wanted to be able to find a genuine, accessible, far-reaching community engagement way that is really requiring us to get creative and essentially go digital. The pandemic certainly has placed us in a situation where while we were going through this pandemic emotionally, physically, our students were also, of course, going through this academically. How did we then, in this particular case, wanted to make sure that even with the lack of having those four walls in the classroom, we still reached out, or we could still continue to reach out beyond the borders of our state and really engage our community. For the purpose of our conversation today, we really wanted to think about teachers as well as school administrators, but we also have in the back of our mind our parents as well as our students. When we're thinking about our community, we understand that there are several pillars, that they all coexist, and one really cannot continue to rise without the others supporting each other. So with that said, here is a very foundational introduction to what we think of when we're thinking about creating a digital toolkit. And the next slides I want to highlight were really slides that we're able to access through an organization called GHD out of Australia. We thought this was one of the best ways to illustrate aspects of being able to create a digital toolkit. So the pathways is as follows. It's actually an entire circle, and I've broken it up for the purpose of our presentation today. The first step, of course, is to inform our stakeholders, because again, we're co-designing this and are able to have access to this information that we'd like to share. But how can we do this? And the first step is in being able to really start to think about informing. And the first step for us here is through a presentation. In the past, LeoLin and I have offered presentation to teachers, to superintendents. Most recently, our CEO was able to travel through a governor's summit and really talk about computer science. There are other means as well. We're able to educate via email and newsletters and so on and so forth. But I wanted to call your attention to the first three, because these are the two means that we know we've been engaging to. The next one, which is probably one of the most important, is to consult with our stakeholders. And the way LeoLin and I have really been able to do this, LeoLin talked about hosting panel conversations, which is the very first space here. The second one is after the panel conversation, we've asked for feedback. And at the end of our presentation today, you'll have two ways to be able to provide us with some feedback. But definitely this is one way for us to be able to consult. What worked, what didn't, what could be improved upon. Of course, surveys, polls, we'll do a little bit of what we can call insight mapping as well today. But these are the main ways we certainly have looked to consult with our stakeholders. The next one is to involve our stakeholders. And as you can tell, the beauty of this particular wheel is that there are no sharp edges in terms of where one begins, where the other ends. There really, you can still consult while at the same time involving. And so part of what we wanted to be able today, of course, is to focus on some insight mapping. We're involving you in this process of designing, of co-designing this digital community engagement toolkit. Of course, you can have gamifications, focus groups, engagement platform, which are all ways we're hoping to continue engaging folks. The next step of those 5 steps is to collaborate. And so collaboration means being able to understand what specific organizations are working through in the space of a school or school district, really understand the reality of what is happening in that particular school district. And that may be around the lines of having a live streaming workshop, co-designing and building the plan, which is exactly what we're inviting you here to do. Of course, deliberative forums where we can go back and forth around the usefulness of having a digital community engagement toolkit, and or facilitated workshops. And lastly, a big word, particularly when we think about power dynamics, is empower. I definitely, LeoLin and I could agree on this, that similarly to being able to empower, this is where we like to actually be saying, focus on letting your voice be heard, understanding what are some of the needs that come up with being able to engage around creating a digital toolkit. What would we need to better understand? And this is where I would say your voice, need your voice to be heard. All right, if you are ready, we'd love to now jump in a little bit into what LeoLin and I have created. So there are 2 things we'll ask you to do. If you have access to your phone, go ahead and bring your phone to this QR code here. And LeoLin, if you could just get an idea from the chat, who actually is able to get access to the toolkit, let me know if folks can interact with us. So we know once you have access to the toolkit, give us a thumbs up and I will take you through the site. So LeoLin, if you wouldn't mind putting this address in our chat. And let me know by giving me an okay or saying okay.
Yeah, we just put it in the chat, so we probably can give people we have plenty of time.
Great,
so
thank you.
We'll give people, I don't know if there's anything specific you want to expound on before we hop in, or what this is going to look like for them. But,
yeah, one of the things that can, yes, LeoLin, one of the things I can do, since we're doing so great on time, both LeoLin, excuse me, and I were thinking about ways to make this as engaging as possible. And I think this could give us a little bit more room so we're not rushing in this particular part of our presentation. What do you think?
Sounds good. We have a couple of folks saying that they're in, so that's good to know the link is working.
Okay. All right, how about we do this? I'm going to jump in. I'm going to also call your attention to the second link that you do not need to click at the moment. We'll tell you a little bit more about when you need to access this link, but I just wanted to make sure you have it available. So let's see if Prezi is going to let me be great today and access our, oh, wonderful. Okay, LeoLin. All right, so what we wanted to share here with you is this digital community engagement toolkit. A couple of things in terms of guiding you. So if you have access to your phone, you can look through it through your phone. And then we'll ask you to access the Jamboard through your computer. But first, we wanted to take you through the website, or the toolkit, really. Keep in mind that this is still under construction, and this is the part of collaborate, of that building a digital toolkit. This is the collaboration part where we'd like to have your feedback. We understand the importance of focusing on school administrators and teachers, and as such, the parent section is still under construction, and so is the student section. But I'm going to dive into the school administrator or teacher section, and then we'll come back and really end with organization and community resources. We have highlighted the reason behind the creation of this site. LeoLin talked about the 2 workshops and webinars that we held with experts, really highlighting the recruitment of Black teachers and students in CS, as well as continuous engagement. And so the first one was primarily with folks who are faculty members and folks who have created visions around being able to support Black teachers and students, as well as community movers and shakers. And the second panel brought us a little closer to home, to the Aldine School District in Texas. We also came across this particular YouTube video that highlighted the importance of teachers in the classroom. We thought it was a great foundation to really set the stage and start with this site. Then we really are inviting you to dig deeper into the advanced placement CS data. Early on, we highlighted the reason why we are setting the foundation around APCS data. It allows us to really frame this longitudinal view around success for our students. So Black and African-American students' participation in computer science has increased as compared to 2019. However, Black and African-American students' participation decreased in computer science A. There are 2 ways to think about computer science and 2 pathways. And great, our participation is increasing. However, it is decreasing in computer science A, and that is a concern to us. When you can, I will not click on this at the moment, but this is going to take you to another link. This is what we call a minimal viable product. And so we have several links embedded into the website, but I want to make sure that I stay on this page. But when you are going through this particular website, it's going to take you to our code.org main page. It is going to provide you with information around AP Computer Science over time by state, further stratified and disaggregated by gender, by race and ethnicity. And there's one more box that you do not see here that will have race, ethnicity, and gender. And that's when you can really dive in the disparity of our young women really not accessing and or passing the exam at the same rate as their counterpart. Once we have laid the foundation around the why, laid the foundation around the data, we want to invite you as teachers and school administrators to further understand the roadmap. So if you are on your computer, feel free to dive in and to click into those links. It really is going to provide you a stronger foundation around the why, the how, what it would entail, and really getting some buy-in from your fellow teachers, school administrators, as well as superintendents. The next part of our slide here is really in the making. It's a carousel of pictures, and some of the links are below that really gives you an idea of some of the resources available on our website. So you have an idea of what once you're ready, you have an idea of what our professional learning programs are. You have an understanding of the tiers in terms of middle school versus high school, as well as elementary school. And you have a better understanding of our summer offering, as we are in full swing, and some regional partners are still accepting application for our summer professional learning programs. This is a chart that, as you navigate to this website, you'll see over and over again. It really highlights the breakdown of our elementary, middle school, and high school offering, as well as our pre-reader and or CS Fundamentals Express. And this is often what I use with my son, who is a kindergarten graduate going to first grade. The next section is questions that you should really think about as you are getting ready to bring computer science into your school district, or if you're already offering computer science encoding into your school and school districts. These are additional questions you should ask yourself in terms of recruiting more Black teachers and or more Black students into these classes. You will notice that there are several links that you can access, and many others where we just are building. We are trying to understand what is the CS data among Black teachers and students in our states, our school and school districts. So this is under constructions, hence you're not going to find the link, but what you can do is start asking yourself these questions, having access to your state and school district data. Ask for this information until we are really able, through collaboration, until our research team is able to bring such a tool to you. How can we best align with the vision to bring CS to Black students in our school? Understanding what is the difference between computer science, CSP, and CSA, creating a CS pathways, engaging Black parents. Again, these are part of the pillars of our community. And then there's several additional links for you to really be able to access information around code.org. LeoLin, how are we doing in the chat? Are there any questions thus far? Or if folks can give us a thumbs up if they're able to navigate the website.
No questions so far, Sabine, but Chuck made a good point. I commented in the chat that stakeholders love to learn using skills to develop practical tools that help them to solve their own problems, which I said I totally agree with, especially when we're talking about Black students and teachers, because sometimes what happens is we are viewed as a monolith, right? Like we're viewed as we're Black and that's all there is. So we all think the same, which is totally not true. Even with Sabine and I, we're you know, our ethnicities, yes, we're Black, but our ethnicities are from different parts of the world. So we come at things differently. And so it's very important to learn these skills. You may not become a UX researcher, but you can learn some skills that might benefit your region. And that way you can tailor what your students and teachers need when they're thinking about engaging Black students and teachers to computer science. So that was a great point. And Leanne said that she likes the data dashboard, which we knew that would be a good help for folks. Data is helpful to see what the numbers are looking like.
I'm so glad to hear this. Both incredibly great points. And yes, I couldn't agree more with the fact that we are continuously even expanding our own language around what does it mean when we say engaging Black teachers and Black students. The need, and we are so aware of this, as LeoLin mentioned, the need of a Black student and Black teacher are going to be completely different being in the state of Washington, the Northwest, in the city of Tacoma, versus being in the city of Austin in the state of Texas. And so what we at least initially wanted to make sure is that we continue to highlight overarchingly some of the disparities that link us together in terms of how we're able to show up in this world of computer science. I also want to highlight that when we are thinking about coding, computer science, UX research, and UX design, there is a fundamental understanding that there is a need for a culturally relevant and appropriate and sensitive way of being able to share information, but also the outcome. A lot of what I certainly come across are community members who are really emphasizing the importance of entrepreneurship. In other words, when we are offering our students the pathways around computer science, is the next and only step to major in computer science when you're in college, and then to work for the Googles and the Amazons and the Facebook of the world. And it isn't the case. So one of the fundamental aspects of really being able to think about computer science is to also start thinking about entrepreneurship. What else happens, right, once we have access to computer science? And once we branch far from focusing on coding, we're really thinking around the larger landscape of computer science, which for the purpose of our conversation today is really focused on computer science and coding. But this is, again, where Ruha Benjamin is highlighting the large prospect of understanding long-term impact on computer science. I'll pause here, so I don't want to get too far off our path, LeoLin, but I'm loving these comments and the conversation. LeoLin, is this a good time to jump into Jamboard?
Yep, sounds good.
All right, if you want to go ahead and put the link into Jamboard, and I'm going to click here as well so we can organize folks and get folks into Jamboard. And let me know when you've put the link in.
Okay. On doing that, Sabine, there is a question that came up about the data for Black teachers. Do we have that on our, I can't quite remember, do we have that on our website, or do we just have that information for our teachers?
We just have this information for our students. We have not come up, yes, which is, thank you for highlighting this. LeoLin and I have been so head down in at least lifting up a lot of our conversation and having the rest of the organizations be so incredibly receptive that our research team, our colleagues are head down trying to find the best ways to bring this information to us. But that also entails having states report this information. I'll pause here for a quick second here, LeoLin, because this question is being asked. I would like to, let's see if I can, does computer science count towards the graduation requirement? I prefer not to click on these links. It's just going to take us into a couple of directions, but I would encourage you to dive into some of the links that I've posted here. And the reason why I'm sharing this is because if states do not report this data, we do not have access to it. So the only way for us to be able to build this, and LeoLin can attest to this, we're going back and forth, often asking our research team to report information to us. But they're saying if the state is not reporting it, if schools are not saying that they're offering it or not, we end up with a lot of unknowns. So on our website, on the code.org website, and I will look for this for you. I know it is one of the links, but I want to make sure I'm able to focus on the Jamboard. There is an opportunity for you to highlight on a map whether or not computer science is being taught in your school or your school district. And if it isn't, and you know it is, to be able to reach out to the school administration and ensure that it is posted on the map. this is one way that we can capture the data around who are the teachers and who are the students. Anything you want to add to this, LeoLin?
Chuck just added a link in the chat for the Atlanta Community Engagement Playbook. So I'm just letting him know, thank you. We love these type of resources. Yes. Sabine will actually talk a little bit about, we're going to send you a survey form so we can get more of these organizations, because we know there's a lot of organizations and resources out there. Sometimes it's just hard to navigate them, especially for us, because we do work actually not only in the US, but around the world. So we're trying to make sure that we have this one location that if, you know, someone was like, I want to recruit Black students and teachers, they can come here and find out the plethora of information. So just replying to Chuck and saying, thank you for sharing that.
Chuck, thank you so much. I actually think this would be a good time for us to jump into Jamboard. And there's two places, in addition, of course, to the chat, where you can put, I love it. I can't wait to take a look at the playbook. So in the Jamboard, which I will show right now, and LeoLin, you already have the link in the chat, so I'll go ahead and open it. We have 5 questions. Oh, there's several folks here. Okay, I guess I'm. So what we wanted to ask of you is to be able to use. Oh, LeoLin, go ahead. I think you were going to guide us around the Jamboard. I'm jumping ahead.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks. So this tool is going to help us gather feedback that you all may have regarding this research page. Because like Sabine said, this is, we're co-presenting and co-leading, but this is a community movement, we like to say. So we'd love, as you all are looking through our research page, to put in Post-its for information that you think is relevant for this page. So we have it color-coded. We don't want to get too rigid, so feel free to do you. But we do have them color-coded if your comment is relevant to that specific color. So for example, a pink Post-it note would indicate, like, what information do you see that's missing? What have we not looked at? This page is under, this page is a evolving living doc. We don't want it to be published and then that's it. So we love to continue to evolve it. So what's missing? Is there anything that was difficult about navigating the page? And things like that, or just, like I said, miscellaneous. So feel free to start adding those Post-its notes in there. We put a couple of sample ones in there, but we love your feedback. And honest feedback is great. Don't feel like you'll hurt our feelings if you're like, if you feel like there's some things that could be worked on. We want this to be usable. We want this to be helpful and valuable to this community. So we'd love to hear what you all have to say.
Thank you, LeoLin. I don't see anyone adding information just yet. And if folks want to chime in the chat or join us, that is fine too. Yes. If you could comment a little bit on, we talked about UX research and UX design. If you could talk a little bit about the process of navigating the page as it is, what is missing, what could be added, the backbone of being able to design this page right now is really to create an MVP, but what else would you have liked to see in terms of the usability, the user experience of navigating the page? And on the right side are some basic notes that we created, but color-coded in green. We'd love to learn a little bit about what the process is for you in navigating the page. And if folks are still thinking, that is perfectly fine. I'm going to exit our full screen so we can get back to our presentation. And close us out if there are no questions. We're quite ahead of time, so we can make this a little bit more engaging. Yeah. Thank you. They're coming up. Thank you for posting those. LeoLin, we're doing so well on time. I'm going to give folks another couple of minutes, and then we can get back to the presentation. Does that sound good?
Sounds good. I was never a teacher, but apparently all the teachers in our staff said that awkward silence is what's needed to get people working. So I'm trying to sit in it without feeling uncomfortable. So yeah, sounds good. Okay,
great. I'm going to see if I could exit our full screen here so we can get back to the presentation. And then do you see anything else going on in the chat? Are more folks chiming in the chat?
Yeah, yes, Yolanda said yes, some more wait time. So giving people time to take a little bit of minutes to look over the site and add some notes.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm going to go ahead and exit full screen. I'll stop sharing for just a second. Okay, we'll give it another couple of minutes. And so while you are taking some time to review, I love that you are able to really push LeoLin and I in ways where we know if you have questions, that means that we have some work. We have some work to do, but you also are looking at the information and sharing what is useful or could be further useful. We are about 10 or so minutes away from our time ending together. We'd like to encourage you. You have access to both the Jamboard as well as the Toolkit. And so while you continue to add feedback on this Jamboard, we'd love to also invite you to share some information around what your experience certainly has been with our workshop. And our hope and our goal here is, if you are able to divert your attention back to the screen, I think what's going to be a very interesting space is going to be to have our organization and community resources. Right now, it is under construction and exists as a carousel of organization that either have reached out to us that we'd like to continue to work with, and at least post onto our website when we're thinking about engagement, is highlighting organizations that are locally, regionally, and to a certain degree nationally already doing this work. So this is absolutely not an exhaustive list. This is just where we started. And again, big focus on the fact that this is still under construction. So we have heard of an organization called Black Boys Code, who reached out to us and have expressed interest in learning a little bit more about our work, particularly around professional development. Black Girls Code, of course. And the Kapoor Center is doing amazing work around not just strengthening the tech ecosystem, but actually working directly with students, with our Black, Latinx, and Indigenous students. So another tremendous resource to access. Black Tech Future Research Institute is really focusing a bit more on the ecosystem, starting with industry. So another interesting organization to reach out to. Again, this is just the beginning of our list, but this is where we definitely would like to continue expand. So with that said,
Can I jump in with the question? I just realized there's a Q&A section in this chat. So we do have a really great question that we can take a couple of minutes to dive in before we submit put in the link for the survey.
Yes.
So Chuck asks, there's a two-part question. So how can we use this community movement to support the redevelopment and resource allocation around our public schools in communities of colors, HBCUs, and MSIs? The second part is, what role do HBCUs play? Which I feel like is a great question, right? Because we've had this conversation internally about HBCUs and our possible partnerships with them. So thank you for asking that question, Chuck. And we still have a couple of minutes, so feel free, anyone else with any questions. So that's a great question. So one of the things that code.org does when we say that we focus on students of color or students who are underrepresented in computer science in girls, is that we do have funding. I mean, that's one of the great things about code.org, is that we do have funding to put teachers through professional development. And if a teacher comes from a school that is high free and reduced lunch, high underrepresented population, or a rural school, then they are able to at least come through our PD at no cost, which is great. Because when we're talking about our PD for discoveries or principles, which is 6 and up, it's a year-long program that really delves in and helps teachers learn the skills needed to facilitate computer science in their school. In terms of HBCUs, I will say this initiative is relatively new to code.org. Code.org, we've usually focused on URGs as a whole. And this past, I would say, year, right, Sabine, or less than a year, we've really focused on breaking it down based on demographics. So Sabine and I are focusing on educating Black students and teachers. We have a couple of colleagues that are working on solely focusing on our Native Indigenous population. And then we have a group of our colleagues who are focusing on Latinx populations, realizing that URGs mean a wide variety of things and need a wide variety of resources. So Latinx may need focus more on Spanish speaking, materials where Black students and teachers don't use that. So that's a good question. Chuck, I'm gonna say to be continued, because this is something that we are definitely continuing to work on. HBCUs is my thing. I've kind of went on a charge for that in our partnerships with them. So I definitely will say, at least it's a code.org, stay tuned specifically for that. Sabine, I know you definitely have some good insight. So what do you think?
Yes, but I will say this, Chuck, great questions today coming through, and insight. We wanted to highlight again the importance of starting with a digital community engagement toolkit. And if you remember the last step of those 5 steps that really are proposal, it may need not to go in this direction, but it's just a foundation for us to think about creating this digital toolkit. The last aspect, which we said empower, and I highlighted, we really want to focus around your voice be heard. I had a space around collaborative budgeting or community-based participatory budgeting. And when you're talking about reallocating resources, there's definitely an opportunity to think of funding there. And so, yes, this initiative at the heart of code.org is somewhat a little more recent. What the beauty is of hosting a workshop like this today and continue the conversation is that as we continue to build this toolkit, as we continue to engage with you and to receive feedback, the need, the need to be able to collaborate on future engagement, which may rely often on resources and allocating those resources, will come up. So we're counting essentially on this movement, as LeoLin mentioned. We're counting on this movement to be able to highlight, one, the number of organization and community resources in doing this work, sadly often in silos, and 2, finding an opportunity to bring the voices, the same table, yes, chairs, really to have these voices create their own table and to start thinking about ways. The funding need not to be reallocated, but the funding just needs to be allocated to this conglomerate. So that's one insight. We're not quite there yet, but the fact that you're asking the question lets me know that ultimately we'll get there. And LeoLin did mention that our big focus at code.org is around ensuring that students have access to computer science, and the way that we are engaging students having access to computer science is by training teachers, so providing professional development there. I foresee the opportunity to engage with HBCUs in a variety of ways to start getting some insights around maybe accessing computer science exams through mentorship and or through to peer support. So there are many ways that we can start this relationship quite early on, and not on the first day of enrollment into college, but maybe during a junior or senior year of a student, and pairing them up with either a mentor or a peer from an HBCU, and or having HBCU engaged quite early on into supporting teacher training. So those are the two answers that I can share as we are so early into this digital community engagement toolkit. I see that we have about 5 minutes left. I want to make sure that we honor your time and the time of our next presenters. I'm sure I can't see Yolanda, but I'm sure she's shaking her head. So let me, LeoLin, it's a good time to get to our feedback form.
Yes, you have about 5 minutes, and the next, there's a 10-minute break after this. So you have about 5 minutes left.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Let me share LeoLin, may I ask a huge favor? Because again, I can't quite see our chat, but if you wouldn't mind putting our contact information in the chat, I definitely would love to continue having these conversations offline, because we really would like to ensure that our communities across the country are focusing on CS, are heard and able to engage with them. And so, okay, here's our access to our forum. LeoLin, if you are able to add this feedback form inside our chat. so folks can give us some feedback. That'd be great. And at the end of the feedback form, there's an opportunity for you to give us a little more information about your organization. If you be interested in having your organization listed, if you're interested in keeping in contact with us, please make sure that we can have access to your information and fill out this particular survey. Thank you. LeoLin, any additional thoughts, closing thoughts?
No, I see there's a question in there that we won't have time for, but please either fill it out in the form or send us an email. I put our contact information in the chat. We want to thank you all for taking the time out and coming to learn more about this passion project that Sabine and I have been working on for the past several months. It's been a lot of work and we've really enjoyed it. And we're really excited to see how this document and this work continues to grow in this field. So please reach out so we can connect and so we can learn from each other and so that we can continue to grow and share information and share resources with each other. So thank you, Constellations, as well for allowing us to come and talk to your audience. And we really appreciate y'all's time today.
Thank you both. This was awesome. I've already followed you both on Twitter and we'll be filling out the form shortly. So just wanted to say thank you again for a great presentation, a wealth of information and resources. And just as a reminder to our audience that these videos will be available on our Constellations YouTube page shortly after the summit. So with that in mind, we have a 10-minute break before, I have to check my schedule here, I printed it out. We have a 10-minute break and then we'll have a featured guest speaker on the stage starting at 2:35. So again, thank you all. Take a break and then we hope to see you back on the stage. Thank you, ladies. Wonderful job.
Thank you for all your help, Yolanda.
Thank you.
Very welcome.
Take care. Thank you, Leo.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Lee.